Okay, so this is sample question 1 for AB. They gave us a table and a graph. Okay, that's cool. That's unique. The velocity of a particle p moving along the x-axis, is given by a differential function. Okay, meters per hour, and t is measured in hours. Select values are shown in the table. Particle p is at the origin at time acceleration. Okay, they're using all the right letters. T equals 1 is known to be this. Okay, so I need to find that later. Also, the continuous function defined on the closed interval. And it says the center is 5, 3. Okay, so this is 3 this way, 3 this way, and it's a quarter circle. Okay, 2 line segments. I see the line segments. And it's known that this point is on the graph of F. 3, oh, right there. We know that point. Okay. Okay, so find d dt. That means the derivative. Okay, so I'm going to try to write small so I can fit this. So d dt of f of t times vp of t. I should use the product rule. I'm not putting the t equals 1 because I'm not substituting that in yet. So first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. And then it wants me to substitute in t equals 1. So at t equals 1, that would be f of 1. V prime is just a, so a of 1 plus v p of 1 times f prime of 1. So let's see, f of 1 is right there, so f of 1 is 1 because that's the y value. Acceleration at 1, they told me, was negative 10. Vp of 1, in the table, it says it's negative 29. And then f prime of 1 means the slope of the curve at 1. Fortunately, it's a line. So the slope of this would be rise to run 1. And along a line, the slope's always the same. Not at the endpoints, because those look like it's not differentiable. So this is 2, positive 2. So you can leave it like this for AP, as long as you can type it into a calculator, or think of a Algebra 2 student could type it into the calculator. But sometimes I like to go all the way to the answer just to check it. But this really is the answer that you would give, is the unsimplified answer. Okay, use a trapezoidal sum. Trapezoidal sum with 3 subintervals. Okay, these are not equal subintervals. This distance, this width is 0.3. This width is 0.7 if I subtract those, and this width is 1.8 to approximate the sum, 0 to 2.8. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 trapezoids. So each trapezoid is 1/2 width. Let me write the formula over here. So 1/2 width, height 1 plus height 2. Mostly people for trapezoids write height base 1 plus base 2, but they're on the side, so sometimes I think of it as height 1, height 2. So this would be 0.3. And then I would put, just for make sure I get all the partial credit points, is I would put v of 0 plus v of 0.3. And then this one plus, I guess I'm not going to have enough space here, so let me do this. So this is 1/2. The width is 0.7. This doesn't look like a plus. 0.7, and then v of left endpoint, which is 0.3, plus v of right endpoint, which is 1. And the reason I'm using v is because v is here in the inside. And then plus, this is the next one. The next width, well, it's 1/2 for the trapezoid, then it's the width, which is 1.8, and then it's v of 1 plus v of 2.8. Okay, and then this would be 1/2. 0.3. V of 0 is 0. This is 0. This is 55. I'm looking at the table. Plus, this is 1/2 0.7. V of 0.3 is 55, and V of 1 is negative 29. Plus 1/2 1.8. V of 1 we just said was negative 29, plus V of 2.8 is 55. And you're not allowed to use the other formula that we taught you. because the intervals are unequal. So this would be the answer that you really are supposed to put. Okay, so I shouldn't even simplify this. You can't. Now, are they two of them or 55? Okay, there. Okay, so you should put that answer. Later, I'll work it out on my calculator, but really, you're not supposed to work it out. Okay, but then it'll help you in case you did it slightly differently than me. Okay, so for this one, find the value, show the work that leads to your answer. Okay, to me this looks like one of those questions that's the, like you're adding. So I have -6, -2, and 5. Okay, so then I know that the integral from -6, let me write this bigger so that I can write smaller and you guys can see. I'm going to write the equation over here. So I would say -6 to -2 of f of t plus the area from -2 to 5, signed area, f of t, equals the integral from -6 to 5 of f of t. Okay, so it reminds me of this type of question. And then they want this one. So they want this one, so I could subtract. So I could subtract -6 to 5 f of t dt minus the integral from -2 to 5 f of t dt. Now which one's f? F1's over here on the right. Oh, okay. -6, so see I don't have the value from -6. Okay, so that makes sense. So -6 to 5, they told me is 7. So this can be replaced with 7 minus, I'll need to find the actual area from -2 to 5, and then that'll be the answer. So -2 to 5 on the picture, I've got this part above, red's above. Oops, so remember above counts as positive, below counts as negative, so that's below. So that area is 0 actually because they're equal. And then this area is below. And then I'm making this area red. This looks like it's the same area too. They both go right in the middle, rise 2, run 1. So this is in the half. So those are equal. So far I have 0 area. So 0 plus 0. And then I need this area right here. So this is a trapezoid. And then this looks like it's going to be a square minus a semicircle or a quarter circle. So I'm going to find those areas. So to show my work, I probably put 0 plus 0. Let me move this section out a little. Plus, we said it was a trapezoid. You could also do it as a triangle and a rectangle. I believe it was 1 wide, but I'll go check. And then I'll look at the heights. And then this was a square minus a quarter circle to get the rest of the little piece down here. Okay, so the square is 3 by 3, so that's 3 times 3 minus the quarter circle. The radius was 3, and a quarter circle would be 1/4 pi r squared. So that would be 1/4 pi times 9. And then let me look at the trapezoid. So the trapezoid's heights were 1 and 3. And that's the exact area because that's a straight line. So 1 plus 3 would be right here. So that would be 1 plus 3. So this would be equal to 7 minus, is it minus the whole thing? Yeah, it's minus the whole thing. And you could just leave it like that if you have the right parentheses, because an Algebra 2 student could type this into the calculator. So I could stop right here. Bracket, bracket. Okay, and then I'll work that out later. But I don't really need to work it out for time-wise, but it might be nice for you guys to know what it is in case you did it a different way. Okay, so I'll work that out later. Okay, what's that integral? Okay, that's unique. That looks like more of a multiple choice question. So the antiderivative of 2f of f prime of t would be 2f of t plus 4t from 3 to 5. And that'd be 2, oops, I moved it over. So that would be 2f of 5 plus 4 times 5 minus 2 times f of 3. plus 4 times 3. Okay, so that'd be 2 times f of 5. F of 5 means the y value at 5, which is 0, plus 20 minus parentheses 2 times f of 3. F of 3 is, oh, that's that value they gave me, which was what? 3 minus radical 5. Okay, so this is 2 times 3 minus radical 5 plus 12. 3 minus radical 5. Okay, so I would leave the answer like this. I would not simplify because AB and BC don't want you to simplify. I would simplify later though, probably, just so you could see the answer. But don't do that on your test. Just leave it unsimplified and you're set. The function g is given by this. Find the absolute maximum on the interval. Absolute maximums take a while. So just in case I ran out of time, I'm going to go to the other part first. Use g from part E. Is the rate of change increasing or decreasing? And then g is find the limit. Oh, this is probably L'Hopital. So let me substitute. That's e to the 1 minus 3f of 1 over vp of 1 minus the cosine of pi times 1. So that would be e to the 1 minus 3 times, oh, maybe it's not L'Hopital. F of 1 is 1. Yeah, so it's not L'Hopital, because L'Hopital you need to have 0 in the numerator, and we don't have 0. V of 1, negative 29. So don't use L'Hopital unless you get 0 over 0 or infinity over infinity. Minus the cosine of pi is negative 1. And then that would be the answer, which I will simplify, but you really shouldn't. If an Algebra 2 student could type it in, then there's no reason to simplify. So that would be negative 28. And if you simplify wrong, then you lose the point that you just gained. So it's probably better to leave it in the red. Okay, let's see. In the other video, I forgot to do the other page, so I'm going to check the other page. Oh, the other page is actually the other question. Okay, so I will go back and do E and F right now. Okay, so find the absolute maximum. Okay, so absolute maximum, I need to find the derivative. So I need g prime of t. To find the maximum of g, I'll need a number line. Now g prime, I'm going to zoom in as much as I can here to make sure I could write smaller. So g prime of t, I would use Leibniz. So substitute the top thing in. So that's f of t times the derivative of the top minus, substitute the bottom thing in and multiply it by the derivative of the bottom. So that would be f of t is g prime of t. Okay, so I'm going to make a number line. I like number lines. And then you have to describe the number line, but you also want to label the number line. So this is g prime of t, and this is f of t. Now, the graph is f, I believe, not g, f. Okay, so f, I need to do above and below. Okay, so when I'm doing f, that means the y value. So I'm above positive in this section. Let me change it to green so you could see it. Let's see if you could see it in green. So this is positive, and then this is negative, negative, positive, positive, positive. Okay, and then this is positive also, and this is positive. So all this area is positive. Not area, we were doing above and below. So it looks like -1, the sign switch, 1/2 the sign switches, and that would be it because we're doing above and below because we're doing f on an f graph. Okay, so I am above, let's see, we're above until, I forgot, -1. And then we're below all the way until 1/2. And then we're above again all the way to 5 until we're at 0. So this is G, which is not shown, is increasing, G is decreasing, G is increasing. And I want the absolute maximum. So I have 2 candidates. So my candidates, let me circle these in another color. So my 2 candidates for maximum would be -1 and the endpoint 5. This is using the extreme value theorem. Okay, so let's find those. So I want to know which is bigger, g of -1, and I want g of 5. So I need to find out which one's larger. Okay, so g, I'm going to have to plug into the equation. So substitute into the equation would be -2 to 5 of f of t dt. Oh, I already found that. I found that up there in this section. So that was, oh, that whole section. So that was 0 plus 0 plus a half times 4 plus 9 minus 9 pi over 4. Okay. And -1 would be the integral from -2 to -1 f of t dt. So that would be the signed area from -2 to -1. -2 to -1 looks like a above triangle. The height is 1, the width is 1, and it's a triangle. So the area for this one, where was I? I was down here. The area for this one would be positive 1/2, and it's the area of a triangle. Which way does it go? It doesn't matter, but the triangle, 1, 1, so that'd be 1 times 1, so this would be a half. So I'm going to have to calculate this. This is 11 minus 9 pi over 4, and I'm going to figure out how much that is because I need to compare it to 0.5. Okay, so now it says it's calculator free, which means you can use a calculator or you don't have to use a calculator. So for this one specifically, I'd rather use my calculator, but you could also try to estimate 9 pi over 4 without a calculator. So that's why they're calling it like calculator independent. So this is 3.931. So I'm looking for the absolute maximum, so this one would be the absolute maximum because this is larger than the 0.5. And I looked at my candidates. Use g of t from part E is the rate of change. Okay, is the rate of change of g increasing or decreasing? So they're saying, is the derivative of g, so is the derivative of g increasing or decreasing? Well, if I want to know if something is increasing or decreasing, I need to take the derivative of it. So I need, kind of think of it as y equals r of t, okay, which is the rate, which is g prime, and I want to know if y is increasing. So I would take the derivative of y, or r, which would actually be the second derivative of g, which is very odd. So that would be, I want to know r prime of 3, r being the rate, which is g double prime of 3. And g double prime is, okay, let me change this a little. Let me erase this part. Let me erase this part because I have a better way. G prime of t is f of t using Leibniz. I'll put a little star here in part E. G prime of t was f of t. So that means the derivative of that would be f prime of t. And then I want to know r prime of 3. I don't have to do a number line because I want it at a specific value. So I just need to know what the derivative of the rate is. So that would be f prime of 3. And f prime of 3 is the slope at 3, which is negative. So the slope at 3 is negative, so less than 0. So that would be the rate is decreasing. I might put of, so the rate of change of g is decreasing since the derivative of the rate is negative. Okay, and that's it for that question. Since I'm here, I'm going to type those in to my calculator just so you could see what they are. Oops, not discard. Okay, so this would be 8, I believe, minus 6. So that'd be 2 plus 2 rad 5. Okay, I'm going to type that in my calculator, but the better answer would be the one that I boxed in red. Okay, it is better to not simplify because you don't want to lose simplifying points if you make an error, and you also have a time issue. Okay? Don't get nervous if you don't finish all the question parts. You don't have to get 100%. The way the AP test works is usually if you get a 50%, 50% is always passing. So if you get a 50%, you'll at least get a 3. Probably 65% would be a 5. 70% definitely would be a 5. So you definitely do not need to get 100. Anyway, so I'm going to type this in. So don't panic. I noticed when I was doing the BC solutions yesterday, the time was definitely stressing me out. Okay, so this one, if you did type it into the calculator, is 6.472. Okay, and then this one, 7 minus, let's see, that's 4, 2, 11, I believe it's negative 4, minus a negative plus 9 pi over 4. But I'm going to type the whole thing in just to check. But I wouldn't do this if I were you. I'm only doing this in case you did so that you could tell if your answer is right. Okay, 9 pi over 4. Okay, so this is approximately 3.069. I don't know if that's right, so let me type in the negative 4 plus pi times 9 over 4. Yeah, so that's what I get both ways. So I think this is right. Okay, but the better answer, I'm going to highlight the better answer. Okay, so truly, this is how you should leave your answer. This is how you should leave your answer. This is how you should leave your answer. You would need all of this in your answer for this one. This is how you should leave your answer. Okay? So you should leave it unsimplified, even though it's hard to leave it unsimplified. This one, this is how you should leave your answer. And then let me type that one in just in case you did it differently. Okay, so 0.5, let's see. 0.3 times 55 plus, I factored out the 1/2, times 26, I think, plus 1.8 times 26. 55 minus 29 is 26. Okay, so I believe this is 40. Oops. Let me change back out of this. This is 40. Oops. We don't want yellow. So this is 40.75. If you typed it in, but I'm suggesting that you don't type it in. And the same thing over here. So same thing. Our answer should just be this part. We should not work it out. And that's it. Okay, so that's it for this question. And then the other one is the other question. So you would then stop and upload this at this point. I might as well just continue and keep going. So I'm just going to keep going to do the other one. Okay, so my timer says 10 minutes on what I'm doing. Oops, that's funny. So my timer right now says 10 minutes. Now this question I've seen before, so this is an old AP question. That's why we've been having you practice old AP questions. Okay, so I'm just putting this right. Oh, it says 7:11. Oh, okay, I could do that. I'll put 7:11 a.m. or p.m. just so I could see how long this one takes me. But I feel like this is very much like an old AP, like almost exactly. Okay, so this looks like a related rates question to me, but it might be, it might not be. I think this is going to be called the height. And they did write dH dt equals this. Oh, now that makes me think of separation of variables. Okay, we'll see. Diameter 6. Okay, see that? So the radius is 3 meters. Collects rainwater is the figure. Collects rainwater. Collected rainwater. Okay. The water drains out of a valve, so it's going out. So dV dt is negative. The rate of change of the height is this. Okay. Where h is measured in meters and t is measured in seconds. Now the r, which is 3, is not changing. So I should put the r equals 3 into the equation before I take the derivative. I don't know if any of you learned my initials way, but TEDS was translate the problem into math. E, find an equation that relates the letters involved. D, take the derivative. And then S, substitute. Okay, so you're not supposed to substitute temporary numbers. Okay, so substitute temporary numbers here. In this equation, you can use permanent numbers if you want. So permanent numbers only. So if something is only sometimes a value, then you can't put it in the E step. Okay, so since it's not changing, dr dt, if I decide to do it that way, is 0. But I'm probably just going to treat r as a constant. Okay, volume of the cylinder, radius is that. Find the rate of change of the volume with respect to time with the height is 10. Okay, so let me write this down here. So I'll start with part A. So it says V equals pi r squared h. Now I have two choices, so I'll show you both choices. One choice is to take the derivative directly, but r isn't changing. So r equals 3 is a permanent number. Permanent. So I feel like I should just substitute in that permanent number right away. So if you did the problem this way, this is okay. There's two ways to do it, so I'm going to show you both ways. So this is 9 pi h equals v. And then this is just a number times h. So that's like, say, 27h. So the derivative of the differential, it's called the differential, but we call it the derivative of v is dv. And then the derivative of, say, 27h would be 27. So that's 9 pi, and you have to put dh. It's kind of like implicit differentiation. And then after that, usually then I put the denominator of dt. You can also put the denominator originally. Usually you're not going to use a different color. I just wanted to show you that that was the second step. And then at that point I substitute. It says when the height of the water is 10. That's interesting. There's no spot to put the height at the moment. Oh, but it gave me dh dt. Oh, so that's kind of cool. So that's 9 pi. dh dt is this equation. Oh, okay. So that's dv dt, and h they said was 10, and I'm at the substitute step because I already took the derivative, so I can substitute in 10, so dv dt, and then you can leave it like this. That is a negative, so that means it's going out. I'm going to put the units, so I'm going to expand it a little. It does use units of measure. So units of v over units of t. So units of v would be meters cubed, and units of time is... T is measured in seconds. Okay, so this would be seconds. Okay. And it says find the rate of change of the water with respect to time. So that's, they wanted dv dt equals question mark when the height is 10. So that's it. Okay, or if you decided to do it differently, you could have used the product rule. So dv is pi r squared times dh dt. I would treat this as 1 and this is the second. So dh dt, but I'll put the dt later, plus h times 2 pi r dr. So that's like you're doing implicit. And then you have your denominators, your dt, and you can put your dt's at the beginning or you can put them at the end. Okay, now, if I decided to do it this way, and sometimes you have to if, r is not a permanent number. So then you do pi 3 squared times that negative 1/5 radical h, plus h, which is 10, r, which is 3, and then you'd be stuck here usually. But since r is not changing, this is 0. But that's also why you could substitute it into the E step in TEDS. Substitute is for permanent numbers, temporary numbers, but E you can put permanent numbers in. So you could have put the 3 in ahead, and then we would get the same thing. So it's the same thing from there. We would go to this, and then to that, and then that would be the answer. Okay, so that's one way. Okay, when the height is 8, the rate of change of height is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so let's see what that means. Oh, am I way at the bottom of the page? Okay, I am. So let me write it right here. So let's see if I can fit B here. When the height of the water, I think I'm not going to be able to fit the whole problem here. Okay, I think I wrote too big. Okay, so at what is the height of the water? The rate of change of height with respect to time is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so the rate of change is increasing or decreasing. So I'm going to kind of do it like I did the last one. So I want to know what the rate is. So I'm going to call y equals r of t, the rate. So the rate is actually the rate of change of height is increasing or decreasing. So I want the rate of the height. Okay, so the rate is dh dt, and I want to know if that's increasing or decreasing. So I actually need the derivative of that. So I need to take the derivative of dh dt. Okay, that's an implicit problem because this is in the wrong spot. So I actually need the second derivative. So that's kind of strange. So I'm going to call it r of t is negative 1/5 h to the 1/2. And this is r prime of t. And that is actually, the derivative is negative 1/10 h to the negative 1/2 times dh dt. So that's a little strange. This is a second derivative implicit, but it doesn't look like it. So it's a little, it's very interesting. Okay, so this is, I want to know the rate at 8. Oh, okay, so that's good. So the rate's derivative is negative 1/10 times 1 over the square root of 10, because height was, oh no, sorry, height wasn't 10 anymore. Height was 8. And then dh dt is negative 1/5 square root of height, which is 8. So that looks like it cancels, and you get positive 1/50, which is greater than 0. So that's greater than 0. So the rate is increasing. So that's kind of strange. I need the second derivative since it's positive. Okay, so that's all. I thought I was going to do separation of variables. Oh, that's what part C says. Okay, so I got to find a spot to do part C. It says do separation of variables to find h in terms of t. Okay, so let me erase my TEDs over here. Let me just write it here at the top. Let me translate all this information here, just in case somebody's just looking at my PDF solutions. Rate equals 3 meters. dr dt equals 0 because the radius is not changing. And what else did I write over here? dv dt is negative because it's leaking. Okay, so let me erase this side so I have more space for you guys. Okay. 7:11, so this is 9 minutes so far for this question. Okay, so I have about 6 more minutes, and I did it a couple different ways, so this is a little interesting. Okay, so this is part C. So this is C. So dh dt is negative 1/5 radical h, or h to the 1/2. And then separation of variables, so I'm going to put the dt on the other side. Okay, let me zoom out so I could write smaller. Let me erase this, and let me write smaller. So dh dt is negative 1/5 h to the 1/2. Let me just make sure that I wrote that right. Okay, I did. So this is going to be dh equals negative 1/5. Make that bigger too. H to the 1/2 dt, but you can't take the derivative when you have an h and a dt, so I need to remove this. So to remove the h to the 1/2, I'm going to divide both sides by h to the 1/2. So dividing both sides by h to the 1/2, on this side I get h to the negative 1/2 dh. I'm going to take the integral, and then this one, this is negative 1/2 dt. I'm going to take the integral, and then that's h. I'm taking the antiderivative, add a power, divide by a power. This is negative 1/5 t, and then you put a c only on one side. Okay, multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip that. And then I have to decide whether I want to find c now or later. So hard to choose. Let me divide by 2. So that's negative 1/10 t plus c over 2. Usually I leave the letter c over 2 and don't rename it c, because then it gives me the flexibility of finding c wherever I want. So I usually leave the 2 there, or I change it to a different letter, maybe call it d. Okay, so this is square root of h equals negative 1/10 t plus c over 2. So to get rid of a square root, you have to do the inverse or the opposite, and so you have to square both sides to get rid of this. And then you can't square each term, you have to square the whole side. So this is h equals -1/10 t plus c over 2 squared, but I need to find c. So I'm going to find c back up here. Usually the first line of where I found c is the best. Okay, but what did it tell me? It said t equals 0, height is 16. So t equals 0, height is 16. So that would be 2 rad 16 equals -1/5 times 0 plus c. So c equals 2 times 4, 8 is c. And since I wrote here c over 2 and didn't just recall it c, then I'm okay with substituting it now into the m. So this is -1/10 plus c, which is 8 over 2 squared. You can definitely leave it like that, but just so you can kind of see what the answer looks like, then you could do that, and there's no reason to multiply it all out. And did it say find h? Find h in terms of t, so that means h on one side, and the only letter on the other side would be t. Okay, 23, so that was 12 minutes, so that was fine. And then you could go back and check your answers if you want. And then that's it. I'd probably write a more complete explanation over here for B. I would put the rate of change of dh dt is increasing. Oops. Oh, I don't think it's going to let me write. Okay, is increasing because the derivative of the rate is positive. So that's probably what I would write. Do I have any extra stuff to write for B? B or A said indicate units of measure. I did that. Find the rate of change of volume. I did that. Makes sense that it's negative. Don't need to simplify. Have my units. Okay. Did I make a mistake over here? I took the derivative, 1/2, negative, dh dt, that is negative, negative, negative is a positive, positive is positive. Okay, so I feel like I'm okay. I don't think I would turn it in early though. I would still look at it. Is the radius 3? Yeah, the radius is 3. And then I would be careful that, say all of a sudden I found an error, I wouldn't want to erase everything. You know, so this is flipping. That's how I got the 2. You multiply by the reciprocal, like multiply 2, multiply by 2. I didn't multiply both sides. I multiplied by flipping that. I feel good. Let me just substitute t equals 0 here, just to check. What if I plugged in 0 there? That'd be 4 squared, and h would be 16, which is what I wanted. Okay. So I guess I'll give myself extra time to upload. I put that in. Did I write the formula right? Okay, I think we're good.